Everyone wants to be able to retire comfortably and to achieve financial freedom, but a lot of people think that building wealth is an impossible task. They feel stuck in their 9 to 5. But as I said in episode 99, you can break free of this paycheck to paycheck cycle and be successful. To take a deeper dive into this subject and to discuss a formula for achieving this goal, I talk in this episode with wealth strategist and Marine Corps veteran Edgar Zavala on how he did it himself and teaches others to do the same. My guest today is Edgar Zavala, a Marine Corps veteran turned business coach and wealth strategist. He teaches people how to multiply their income, create passive wealth, and develop the leadership skills to scale their success. His mission is to empower high achievers, entrepreneurs, and professionals to break generational cycles, redefine success, and build a legacy for financial freedom. He's also helps people escape that 9 to 5 grind, build generational wealth, and take control of their financial destiny, which is what we're all about here on the Financial Freedom Podcast. Welcome to the show, Edgar.
Pleasure to be here, Steve. I'm excited to be here and have fun, have an amazing discussion.
Absolutely. So, building wealth, which is really what people do when they're doing long-term saving for retirement. But there's everybody says, "Well, yeah, I got to do it," but they think that it's really an impossible task. People like us, the rich build wealth. We don't. It's an impossible task, and I think that's because there are a lot of myths out there about building wealth.
For
So
sure.
let's get into that. What would you say is the biggest myth, the biggest lie that people believe about building wealth?
Absolutely. Great question, Steve. I would say the biggest myth, the biggest lie is that being wealthy is just for a specific class or type of person. But guess what? Becoming wealthy and becoming rich is just information. So the people that aren't rich and aren't wealthy are just lacking information. And then information is what allows you to make decisions, and then decisions leads to action, and action leads to reality. So at the end of the day, I would say the biggest myth is don't think that you have to be a certain way, you have to be built into a certain family or have a certain last name. Just find the information and follow the money. Once you follow the money, you're gonna have money. I'd say that was one of the biggest myths that I was told growing up that hey, we're not made for wealth. We're not made to be rich. That's just for these types of people.
Mhm. And
Yeah.
I think that the one of the things that held people back is just that word, wealth, building
Yeah.
wealth. And people think this wealth, they see these people on yachts and, spending the summer in the Hamptons or whatever it is, these super rich people, and that's wealthy. And they see that as being beyond their capabilities, that they'll never get there. But wealth is a relative term, isn't it? I mean, it depends on, and I was talking in a previous episode that's going to be released about, finding your number and how much is enough to have towards retirement. Well, that depends upon how you want to spend retirement. What do you want to do? So,
Yeah.
how much is
Yeah.
enough? And then you get to that and you say, well, it's enough. And it depends on who you talk to, what you want to do.
Sure.
One, two, three, $4 million, and people think, oh, I'll never get there. But
Yeah.
it's like eating an elephant. One spoonful at a time.
Yeah.
So, what would you say to people to think there's no way I'm going to be able to generate enough money to retire? Which is really the question, right? In building
Yeah.
wealth, am I going to have enough to be able to retire comfortably and affordably?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question, Steve. I would say the biggest thing that I do with my clients and people that I sit with and I have a conversation with is what is your fin number or what is your financial independence number? Meaning, what do you have to have by a certain age so that it can last you during your retirement years so you can have the certain lifestyle you want? Like you were saying, right, Steve? Some people just want to stay at home and enjoy time with their family. Some people want to be able to travel the world and vacation every so often. Some people want to be able to have the yachts, have the boats, have the houses, have the luxury car. So I would say, okay, what is the number? What is your financial independence number? How much time frame do we have between now and that number? Best case and worst case scenario. And what do we have to do? Do we have to find ways to make more money or do we have to find ways to invest and or save a little more efficiently and start budgeting today? I see it all the time right there, Steve. People say, I want to retire. And I say, okay, by when? And they go, well, I never thought about it. And I said, well, it's best case, what's worst case? They go, well, best case tomorrow. And I said, okay, for sure. Well, obviously tomorrow we all want to be retired, but what's best case? And people say, well, at least in my 50s, and worst case, no longer than 65. And let's say I'm speaking to like a 30-year-old. So I'm like, okay, well, you have about 20 years to make that happen. And what do you want to be doing to your retirement years? Well, I want to spend time with my family. I want to travel. I want a vacation. I want to take my kids to Disney World. They say all this stuff. I say, perfect. What do you think you'd have to be earning, on a monthly basis as a pension or even on an annual basis to make that a reality? What's worst case? What's best case? And they go, well, if I'm getting at least 10 grand a month, that'd be great. That'd be awesome. So I go, okay, perfect. This is how I do the math real simple right here, Steve. I go, all right, perfect. So that's about $120,000 a year. And I say, if you're 50, okay, so that means you have about, you know, that's almost 40 years of retirement. So 40 times 120, that's about $4.8 million dollars. So I say two things need to happen. You need to either have about $4.8 million dollars saved up by 50, or let's say if you're 30, right? $4.8 million dollars divided by 20. That means that you would have to start saving an extra $20,000 a month starting today between now and 50 to be able to have $4.8 million dollars. What do you have going on right now, or what are you doing to make that a reality?
Mhm.
And that's when people sit there and go, wait, I'm not bringing in an extra 20 grand a month, and none of my investments at the rate that I'm going, it's gonna have $4.8 million dollars by 50. So yeah, they go into panic mode. And that's when I step in and I show them a real game plan to make that a reality.
And what's great is what people don't realize, and is the earlier you start, the better. So you say about someone in your 30s, and you're like, all right, well, you know, the biggest, and correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, I don't know how many people in their 20s you work with, but they may see it as building wealth. Are you kidding me? I can barely, with inflation and everything else, I can barely, pay my bills with the job I just got out of college, lucky to get a
Sure.
job. I can't afford to start building wealth. But as you and I know, and as I've talked about on the podcast, you don't need a lot in your 20s, because if you want to retire at 65 and you start at 25, you've got 40 years to start putting money aside to start investing.
Sure.
And if you follow
Absolutely.
the basic rule of sevens, where your money doubles every 7 years, well,
For sure.
guess what? How many times do you think the money you invest now is going to double between now and when you retire at your retirement goal age of 65?
For sure.
So the earlier you start, the more uh, realistic and affordable it is, because you don't have to put away as much. And maybe
Yeah,
the better
absolutely.
news, if you're starting later, you might have more, maybe the kids are grown, they're now out. You now have more disposable income to put aside, and there are ways to invest money later in life, right? What can we talk about here that about, starting about a little later, like in your 40s? Is it still
Yeah,
doable in an investment strategy to build
absolutely.
that kind of wealth?
100%, Steve. So what I would say, when I have that conversation with my clients about the financial independence number, I put them in a position where it makes them uncomfortable so they have the ability to think and say, okay, got it. Like if I just keep doing what I'm doing, if nothing changes, right? And
Mm-hmm.
then now we can have the discussion, okay, what can we put aside and use compound interest, for instance,
Mm-hmm.
to get a little bit closer? Or how can we start budgeting to save more, to put more to the side to make it work for us? Because we already work hard enough for our own money, Steve, like you were saying, but now it's about time we make money work for us, like the rich do. And I would say for someone in their 40s and 50s, again, it's about using the right vehicle, about using the right strategy that can get you the highest rate of return on your investment, which is whatever you're putting in, right? So you don't need a lot of money, but it takes money to make money. We just have to be smart about what we're putting to the side. I just sat down with, I'll give you an example, Steve. I just sat down with a 48-year-old. He's 48 years old. He's worked at Walmart for 20 years, Steve.
Mm-hmm.
20 years at Walmart.
Wow.
And after 20 years at Walmart, he's a great gentleman. And he only had about shy of $100,000 in his 401k.
Mm-hmm.
And what we did is we created a separate strategy to show him how to use certain tax codes and certain investment strategies to grow his money more efficiently. And now in the next 10 to 15 years, he's gonna have a tax-free pension if he stays disciplined with our game plan. He's
Mm-hmm.
gonna have a tax-free pension of about $180,000 every year tax-free for the rest of his life. And that's assuming worst case scenario with us. and the strategy we created for him. So we gave him hope, doing the exact same thing he's been doing for the last 20 years,
Hmm.
just in a different plan, a different strategy.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
And the earlier you start and the earlier you start thinking about it, and I have found in my life, and I'm sure as you too, that the antidote to anxiety is action. You're worried
Absolutely.
about something. Well, start addressing it. Start doing something about it, and you start realizing, wait a minute, this might be possible, and you stress out about it a lot less. But
Yeah.
it's very easy for you and I to sit here and say, oh, if you start in your 20s, you don't have to invest a lot because it's going to grow over 40 years. Yeah, right. Uh, People get caught in that 9 to 5 trap. They're living that paycheck to paycheck cycle. There's no savings account. Money comes into the checking account and goes out to pay the bills, and you wave it goodbye. But how do you break free of that? And what's the first step that people can take? Like I said, that first spoonful of the elephant. What what first step can they take to break that cycle?
Absolutely. So I would say the very first step you can take is you have to have a good budgeting plan. You have to budget. I tell people all the time, sometimes we people get too comfortable when they start making more money, they start upgrading their lifestyle. And you're living the exact same paycheck to paycheck, just at a higher bracket.
Mm-hmm,
So number one, we have to budget, like you said, what's coming in, what's going out, what serves us and what doesn't serve us. What are the needs and what are the needs and what are the wants?
mm-hmm,
Okay. If the wants don't make sense right now, we got to get rid of them. What are the needs? And then, okay, do we need to start making more? Do we need to start saving more? Or what needs to go? So, number one is budget. Find your foundation.
mm-hmm,
Once you find your foundation, then you can start goal setting or you can start planning. Okay, well, my goal is to add an extra $2,000 to $3,000 a month, an extra $2,000 to $5,000 a month. Okay, now you can start investing towards yourself with opportunities, with books, with knowledge, with courses, with getting into a community so you can learn how to use your skill set to make you more money. But the reason why people feel trapped is because remember, like more than half of America right now are basically living paycheck to paycheck. I think there's more than 63% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. So money is like oxygen to people, Steve. Think about this, Steve. Right now, like if you were to, just cut your airway or stop from air from coming in, what's the first thing you're thinking of? It's air. That's all you're thinking of. You're not thinking about did you leave your door unlocked? Did you leave the car garage open? Where's your wallet? You're thinking about air. So some people right now, money is like oxygen to them, where they feel like they can't even breathe, and that's all they're thinking about. Budget, get your foundation, breathe, and then create a game plan so you can start making more and start leveraging your time instead of trading your time for money. That's what I would say.
mm-hmm. And I had a previous guest talk about what you mentioned earlier as lifestyle creep, where you have your budget, you know that your income will meet your needs, your current needs, but as you make more, your needs and your expenses tend to expand to fill it. And you need to look and say, wait a minute here, I've got other things I should be doing that should take priority. Uh, First, I need to get out of any debt I may have run up. Then I've got to make sure I have an emergency fund so the first unexpected expense doesn't completely derail me.
Yeah.
And then I got to start thinking about investment as you're talking. But there is one part of life. It's not really lifestyle creep because it's a part of life. It's called new life, children. So
Yeah.
you get married. It's great.
Yeah.
Okay, we're married. We got this. I'm making more money, so we can pour money. And guess what? You have a child.
Mhm.
There goes
Yeah.
all that extra money. Uh, so
Yeah.
that has to be part of the planning too. And you look at it. So if you're going to have children, how large a family do you want to have? And that certainly comes into the planning when you're looking at budget and income and how you need to lay things out, right?
Sure. Absolutely. 100%. I agree. No, it's all about, they say, poor planning prevents poor or proper planning prevents poor performance.
Yes.
I suppose it's a tongue twister, right? It's like Sally sells seashells, right? Poor proper planning prevents poor performance. And the thing about it is that people want to have things. It's not wrong, right? We live in humans and we're an abundant minded creature, right? We want abundance. We want more. But the thing that I say all the time, I tell my clients and I tell my brokers and my agents and my partners, I say, Steve, people want change,
Mhm.
but people don't want to change. That's the difference. Everybody wants a better life. Everybody wants the kids, the houses, the cars, the boats, the free money. But not everybody wants to do the things to create the certain sacrifices to then eventually have the wants.
And it's also a matter of prioritizing your wants. I mean, you need to look and say, okay, this is what I want in this order.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah,
if a want further down the line interferes with a want further up the line, then you can't do that.
for
I
sure.
had a guest, and I keep telling this story with with other guests that I have on the show. Uh,
Yeah.
she and her husband own an older house, and
Yeah.
they needed to replace the windows. And the house was so old that it was built before you had standardized window size. So every window was custom, and of course, cost a lot of money. So they spec this out, and something would come along. Well, hey, you want to go to Disney World this year? I don't know. That's three windows, right? Because that was the most important thing was replacing the windows. So you compare, it's an
Wow.
opportunity cost, right? You
Absolutely.
have this want, and that's going to deny you the opportunity to achieve this other want. And by having
Absolutely.
those priorities and thinking of things in terms of those priorities can help frame your thinking, right?
100%. I agree 100% with you right there, Steve. That's the people who say we have to start picking and choosing what makes the most sense for us now that will then benefit us later. You know, sometimes we want things to be easy now, but
Mm-hmm.
the things that are easy now will become difficult later. So, yeah, I tell people all the time, think about it, Steve. Like some people are caught in that, rat race that we'll talk about eventually, but when you trade time for money, if you put X amount of hours into a job and then you go to the store and you want to buy this expensive item, think about, okay, how many hours worth of my time does it take for me to buy this specific item? And is it going to give me a return? And if it doesn't give you a return, whether it's, mentally, physically, financially, spiritually, if it doesn't make you better, then obviously you just traded that time for that specific item that's not going to give you a return. So I think about it that way all the time.
Exactly. How much time are you losing uh, with family or anything else because you have a second job, because you're working overtime, because is that loss of time really worth it for that money that might achieve some goal that might not be that important?
Exactly. 100%. I agree,
So,
Steve.
that's the first step of breaking free. Are there any other steps you want to talk about as far as breaking free of that
Oh yeah,
paycheck
for
paycheck
sure.
cycle?
Yeah, absolutely. The number one goal to break out of the paycheck to paycheck cycle is number one, you have to find ways to leverage your time for money instead of trading your time for money, right? And to think about it, in our society, in the economy, in the marketplace, you're gonna get paid in direct proportion by the difficulties you're willing to solve. So think about it. You need to take a step back right now if you're listening or watching this and say, okay, is my skill set right now very valuable to the marketplace?
Mm-hmm.
If it's not that valuable to the marketplace, then you will get paid according to your value to the marketplace. Not that you're a bad person or a good person, but the guy, bagging groceries or the guy who is building a Fortune 500 company, it's two different conversations. Or the guy who's going out there and helping people pay less in taxes, or the guy that's helping people retire, or the guy who's helping people understand law, it's way different. So what I would say is you need to put yourself in a position where you take your skill set and leverage it to earn an income instead of just trading it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's how I tell people all the time. Find a way to serve the marketplace, not just take from the marketplace, and you'll be successful.
Because when you do that, you increase your value to an employer, and therefore you make more money. I mean, to boomers like me and the Gen Xers, where if they wanted to make more money or have a better life, they take classes at night.
Yeah,
Some of them they may not have a
exactly.
college degree, so they're taking classes at a
Exactly.
community college or whatever it is at night, working full time to get those
Exactly.
skills. So
Exactly.
we're talking about trading time for something. Well, if you're trading time with family or whatever for going to night school and learning these classes, what does that have the potential to give you back in
Yeah.
higher income later once you have those skills.
Exactly. And one more thing, Steve, you said it really well. Like, not only do you become more valuable to your employer, but just think about it like this. You might become more valuable to the community or to the organization that you're even a part of. And or guess what? You might even become your own employer. You might become self-employed and you might be your own boss now because if there's people who do it all the time, right? You're in an organization, you're in a company, you're with a group, and you learn all the skill sets to get a task done. And you say, hey, how can I go and do this myself? I already know how everything works. I know the operations, the systems. Let me go do this over here myself, and let me go be my own boss, and let me go, fill in the holes in the boats that this company, this organization had, and that's how you become your own boss. Steve, everybody has the ability to become their own boss. It's just, do you want to take action and make that happen? So, also self-employed. Become self-employed and use those same skills as you learned at a job, at an organization, at a company, at a community, and then you'll be successful as well.
And studies have shown that I believe about two-thirds of all American millionaires are self-employed. So there's got to be a
Exactly.
correlation there. But
I see it
also,
all the time.
in looking into improving yourself, one of my nieces lives out in Colorado, and she works at a company. They take care of a lot of uh, intellectually disabled people, which is
Yeah,
highly regulated from a state and federal standpoint, and she needs to
sure.
know these laws and regulations, but also uh, she needs to navigate that. But they get more funding the more people in that organization that have doctorates. And I said, well, are they talking like research PhDs? Or they PhDs or just any kind of doctorate? She said, any kind of doctorate. I said, go to law
Wow.
school.
There you
And
go.
because that's what you're dealing with. You're dealing with compliance with the law, and a law
Yeah.
degree will give you that doctorate, and her company will pay for it. So the
Wow.
point of my story is, people should talk to their employer. They may have, not always, but may have an opportunity to say, "Hey, look, I'm willing to invest the time into the training.
Absolutely.
Maybe they'll train you into
Hmm.
into those skills, or have some materials you can take advantage of, or maybe they'll
Absolutely.
pay towards your education. My
Yeah.
wife and I bought a car years ago. Guy working as a car salesman, and
Yeah.
the dealership was helping him go to school, helping pay for it, and
Wow.
he's getting a
Really good.
business degree. I said to him, "You don't want to sell cars for the rest of your life, do you?" He says, "Nope." But take advantage of those opportunities.
Absolutely. Any way possible, Steve, I say wherever you can get your foot in the door where you're able to learn more and just ultimately gain more information, you
Mm-hmm.
become more valuable to the marketplace. And what I tell the time, Steve, is like, yes, you can climb the corporate ladder. That's how you start. Climb the corporate ladder, but then guess what? Then you can become the corporate ladder eventually, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I say all the time, right? Climb the corporate ladder, and then all of a sudden you go, wait, I mean, I've kind of reached the limit here. I've done it all, seen it all. Become the corporate ladder. And then now you're the CEO, you're running your own show. So I believe in being your own boss. I believe in entrepreneurship. And I believe that obviously corporations, 9 to 5, organizations, companies are a good starting point.
Mm-hmm.
But if you want to make millions and billions, you got to go ahead and become your own boss.
Yeah, exactly. So, all right. So that's we found some ways to break loose that cycle. Um, but I'm sure some of the listeners out there thinking, "Yeah, easy for you to say." you know, you're giving me advice, and now I'm supposed to go out and do it. But how did you do it? How? What was your turning point? What pushed you
Wow.
from paycheck to paycheck into financial freedom? What's your story?
Yeah, so my story is interesting, and for those listening, for those watching, how you say like, it's kind of easy for this guy to say he already has what he was looking for and whatnot. Well, remember, we all have a starting point,
Mm-hmm.
and unless you're born in a wealthy family, most people aren't born with wealth, right? I come from a middle income household, single mother, and born and raised in Brooklyn, New York. So guess what? Statistically speaking, I'm not even supposed to be here talking about this. It's either I'm supposed to be in a gang, incarcerated, or potentially not even here. And I found ways to grow. But I would say my journey started when I had a good paying job. Okay, we know we've all heard that before. We have a good paying job with the benefits, with everything. And then I started realizing, okay, well, I'm spending 50 to 60 hours a week at this job, earning this income. Well, yes, it feels great, but I'm always at work. I can't seem to do anything else but be at work. And at the time, I didn't think about it right there, Steve. I thought that was just a reality.
Hmm.
And like I said, right, I thought people that had the luxury cars and the houses and the wealth, I thought that was like from the movies, or I thought that there was some secret code they had that I could never get.
Hmm.
And it wasn't until, I was blessed with when I was in the military, one of my guys that I served in the Marine Corps with when I was stationed out in Japan, he was always into investing, into real estate, into seeking knowledge. And all of a sudden, I saw him. He was able to retire his wife and kids, and we're the same age, and we're Marines. So, Steve, let's just be honest. You don't have to be Albert Einstein to be a Marine, right? We're devil dogs. We eat crayons. Okay, so I said, hold up, like, I was a diesel mechanic in the military. I was hitting Humvees with a wrench to fix them and putting gum in places where gum shouldn't be, but he did it. So I said, wait, let me find out what's going on over there because I got grease and oil where grease and oil should it be, and he's making the same money with his hands are clean. So I reached out to him. He introduced me into the financial services world, financial industry. And financial industry is one of the highest paying industries, Steve. It's first is financial services, then it's tech, and then it's real estate. And then I said, okay, well, okay, now I can see why it's valuable. Right now, people are living paycheck to paycheck. People are not on track to retire, and we solve those issues. So I learned, I got state and federal license, and I remember one of my coaches at the time, he was 27 years old. Oh, he was 25 and I was 25. And he was making millions of dollars, and I was only making 10 grand a month. And then I said, whoa, I was the big fish in the little pond, Steve. I thought I made it until I met someone at a different level. And
Hmm.
that's when I jumped in, and I was able to, produce a great income being financial services. And it took me about, anywhere from 4 to 6 months to pretty much double and triple my income and quit and go all in. So my turning point was meeting someone else my same age doing the same, if not better than me. And I said, wow, like there's no way this can't be real. This guy's 25, 26, he's making millions, and I'm 25, making 10 grand a month, but he's from home. So that was a turning point right there, Steve.
Well, it's interesting that you say as far as you were a big fish in a little pond. Uh, it's a quote that's often attributed to motivational speaker Jim Rohn, but he once said, "You are the average of the five people you spend the most time with." So if you and a business coach that I spoke to many times, he would say, "You want to be a really good basketball player, play with the guys that'll kick your butt."
Yeah,
You become they lift you up. And
absolutely.
if you look around at this pond and you realize you're lifting up everybody else, but you're not going anywhere, then maybe it's time to move to the next pond and learn from the people that are better than you, that have the skills or whatever, and start
Absolutely.
living up to their level.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But
Yeah.
I mentioned that before we hit record about you were the third veteran that I've spoken to that have gotten into this. But so I guess my question to you is, as far as your personal journey, did you learn any skills in the military that helped you once you got out to
Absolutely.
break free of this cycle?
Yes, absolutely. I would say number one, critical thinking. I would say leadership, because at the end of the day, in the military, right? Like, you know, you have to become a better version of yourself if you want to lead other Marines.
Hmm.
So you can't stay stagnant. And one thing about Marines and just service members in general, because service members and military and veterans, they're killing it in the financial service industry and our organization because of the fact that we're always seeking to be better. Because the more hands you shake, the more people that you lead, the more your net worth grows.
Hmm.
And I remember it, me growing up in Brooklyn. Steve, I grew up in a dog eat dog world. I grew up in hell. You have to be tough. You can't just bow down and So
Hmm.
when I went to the military, there were some leaders in the military when I first got to the fleet that I could tell like, yeah, you have the rank, but you don't have the respect, and you have the rank and you're taking advantage of the rank, but you don't earn. So I was giving those people trouble. Let's just say I didn't make it easy for those guys to lead me. And then there was other leaders who I knew they were self-developing. I knew they were working on their character. I knew they were imperfect and they were like trying to get better. And that just kind of brought me closer to them to follow them and just, be loyal to those guys.
Hmm.
So I would say leadership ability, critical thinking, and then I guess I would say problem solving. In the military, you have to be able to be good at problem solving because either someone's life could be on the line, equipment could get damaged, or the mission won't be complete. So in problem solving is the biggest one. There's some people right now, Steve, when things go wrong, they lose it.
Hmm.
It's the end of the world for them. But for us, when things go wrong, it gets fun. It
It's
gets
that
fun.
adaptability. I mean, and it's called
Adaptability.
in the military commander's intent. I mean, if you know, you can't be just the cog in the wheel. Okay, the boss says I have to do this, and I'm going to do the best job possible of doing this. But
Yeah,
what happens if something goes wrong? All right.
absolutely.
Now,
Absolutely.
hopefully, that leader is communicating to you why he needs you to do that because you need to know that commander's intent, what the ultimate goal is, so that if something goes wrong, you can be that problem solver and try and figure things out. But
Exactly.
also,
100%.
and I learned this a while back, and I don't know how much true it is, but in the military, they expect you to advance. And you start out as an E1 or an O1 or wherever you come into the military in whatever branch. And initially, you're promoted as a matter of course, but then at some point, you got to put in the time, you got to put in the skills, you've got
For
to
sure.
earn it.
For
And
sure.
I think after what I heard was like after 5, 6 years, if you're not going anywhere, the military will release you for what they call
For sure.
failure to advance.
Really.
So there is that built-in expectation that you will advance, that you will get better, that you will rise up. They want you to. So
Exactly.
you're in an environment that encourages success and advancement and
Exactly.
instills that in you, right?
Absolutely, 100%. Yeah, in the military, it's kind of like, remember what you said, you're some of the five people you hang around with the most. But
Mm-hmm.
imagine being in the military where everybody has to be squared away, everybody has to be fit, everybody has to be in line and in uniform and presenting the military with a good manner. So now all of a sudden you're like, well, I can't stay behind because if I stay behind, I'm the outcast, and that's a good thing to do. Why wouldn't you want to be part of an organization or a team where like you have to stay ahead. You have to stay fit. You have to be squared away to be successful. So now when you saying that, Steve, is a good connection, when we transfer it out into business, into entrepreneurship, into finances, into being successful, now you look around and a bunch of veterans or even other people who may be in the military, but they have that kind of like militarist mindset. And we're like, no, like, yes, we might not get released like in the military, all right, but we all got to keep up. We all have to perform. We all have to solve problems. We all have to be critical thinkers. We all have to lead and get the job done. So that's 100% true right there, Steve.
Yeah, your job may not release you, but you're never going to go anywhere. If you don't put
Exactly.
it in, if you don't work to advance, that you may get raises that keep up with inflation, but
Yeah.
that's it. You're
Yeah.
just basically staying in the same place, doing the same job,
Yeah.
being basically paid the same thing adjusted for inflation, and you
Yeah.
never really go anywhere.
Exactly. Exactly.
So
Yeah.
let's go on to the next thing I wanted to talk to you about, and this is something you talk a lot about in your business, as I understand it, is this 5F formula for creating lasting financial success. And I mean, F is in Frank, the 5F formula.
Yeah.
What are those 5Fs and why are they important?
Yeah, 100%. It's when it comes to the five F's, you really start seeing, okay, what are the fundamentals and what are the core values? In the military, we have core values, right?
Mm-hmm.
And for us, the five F's, number one is faith. If you don't believe in something, you'll fall for anything. What do you believe in?
Mm-hmm.
What's your higher power? What's your higher calling? Like, what do you who or what do you hold yourself accountable to, right? And obviously, we respect all religions, but what is your accountability?
Mm-hmm.
Who do you look up to? What kind of conversation you have behind the scenes that keeps your morals and values aligned? So number one is faith. Number two, family.
Mm-hmm.
Why are we even doing this for? Are we here to retire our parents? Are we here to take care of our children? Are we here to I'll help our grandparents, be healthy. Are we here to create generational wealth? So faith, family, next is fitness. If you don't have health, you don't have wealth,
Mhm.
right? Health is wealth. You know how many people right now, Steve, they're probably in the hospital right now and they're terminally ill. They have critical illness, chronic illness, terminal illness, and they might have all the money in the world. They might have more money than what you have right now in the bank account for whoever's listening or watching this. But do you think they're thinking about the commas in their bank account? Or you think they're thinking about just getting out the hospital in one piece?
Mhm.
So fitness, we have to take care of our health. When you go to the gym, when you start working on your health, you start creating your diet, you start feeling much better. And if you feel good, you do good, right? So faith, family, fitness, finance, right? Finance is number four. Why? Because this is not about money. This is not about money, right? Financial freedom can be something to you, Steve. It could be different for me. Some people, 5 grand a month is enough for them. Some people, 10 grand a month is enough for them. Some people want 100 grand a month. But finances at the end of the day is what creates a breath of fresh air when you can breathe. What you're talking about, Steve. When you can breathe and not feel like you're cornered, where you have to wait to the next paycheck to put food on the table. So take care of your finances. What's your financial independence number? Do you know what the pot of gold is going to look like at the end of the rainbow? I tell people all the time, Steve. Some people they know there's going to be a pot of the gold, and they at the end of the rainbow they look and there's no gold in there. There's just a pot.
Mhm.
Right? So what's gonna be at the end of the rainbow? And the last one is fun. So faith, family, fitness, finance, and fun. Fun. We have to have fun, Steve. We have to have fun at the end of the day, right? I mean, you can't be grumpy. Life's too short, and we got to do everything we do with a smile, even when things are going wrong. It's a learning lesson. So those are the five F's right there, Steve, that I believe in.
Now, are they ranked in an order of importance? Are they the same? And then they need to be balanced. I mean, how do we address these five F's in our
Yeah.
life?
Yeah, absolutely. That ultimately depends on where you are in life right now. I would say it's good to have a good balance in life, but nothing's ever really balanced in life, right? Nothing's ever perfect in life, Steve, as we may know. But find a good balance. But there are some people, Steve, where hey, they might already have their finances intact,
Hmm.
but their family is not in order, right? Their home is not in order. Or there's some people who are into their faith, but their fitness might be out of whack, right? They might not be taking care of their health. So I would say finding a good balance between all of them and then meeting people in the middle. I when I first got into entrepreneurship, I was chasing finances. I
Hmm.
was chasing money. I was chasing the dollar sign.
Hmm.
And guess what? I finally got the dollar sign. I finally got to a place where I was financially independent and I was comfortable. I don't have to deal about what I'm buying, what I'm paying for, and whatnot. But
Hmm.
then I realized, okay, now that I have the money, what's life about? And then I started going towards my faith. And then when I started going to my faith, I started working on myself spiritually. And then remember, our body's a temple. So I'm now okay, well, now my finances in order, my faith is getting better, but my body's a temple. Let me start focusing on my fitness. And then once my fitness is in order, for me, family's gonna be taken care of regardless. Because if I'm healthy, my family's gonna be healthy. And then the fun comes when your family's taken care of. You see how it's all different order for different people, Steve.
And it also sort of progresses where, and you, the way you said it kind of reminds me of Gary Keller wrote this book, The One Thing. And what the one thing is what is the one thing you can do today that will make everything else uh, easier or unnecessary. So you're sort of going in that order of the finance, faith, family, fitness. That you're sort of progressing from the one
Absolutely.
to the next, and because you do it in that order, as you say, by the time you get to fun, you're already having fun. You've
Exactly.
already achieved that because you've done these other things first. So
Yes.
you need to keep them in balance. But would you say there is an order in which you do them?
Yeah, I would say number one, the that exact order, right? So faith, family, fitness, finance, and fun.
Mm-hmm.
That order right there is the best because faith is your foundation.
Mm-hmm.
Family is why you're even working. That should be your why for most people. Why is it that you're working, right?
Mm-hmm.
So faith, family, fitness, you stay healthy, you'll live long enough to enjoy the life you're creating for yourself. Finances is obviously, like fiat currency, right? Like paper money, currency. That's all that's just trading. That's all it is. Money is just a means of trading value. And then at the end, you'll have fun. But there's a difference between having fun when you're forcing fun and then fulfillment. Fun comes when you're fulfilled.
Mm,
That's when it's fun. Not trying to force fun. Like some people find they go out every weekend and they're at the bar, they're at the club, or they're doing this. That's forced fun. But
mhm.
fulfillment is when it's real fun, when everything is taken care of.
Right, exactly. So I guess the question now becomes for our listeners that, we talked about all the things that they need to do or should be doing. How do you help folks to do that? How do you help them break that paycheck to paycheck cycle, get to prosperity and wealth? If they were to reach out to you, how can you help them? What do you do for them?
Yeah, absolutely. So number one, what happens is I was in their shoes at one point in time. So I can speak from personal experience and from my own, my life and what happened with me and how I went from living paycheck to paycheck to making a good living and to now being prosperous, right? I
Mm-hmm.
would say the way that I help people, the way that I assist people is I first find out what are their goals, their financial goals, their lifestyle goals, and then I show them how to be part of an organization, part of a platform where they have the ability to leverage their skill set to earn an income instead of trading their time for income, right? So like, for instance, I have guys who are CDL drivers and they can drive a truck, sure, that's fine, but now they're making an additional $4,000 a month with me part-time in addition to what they're already doing. Or, I show them step by step and I mentor and I coach them on how to actually build a business that can pay them forever passively, right? And I give people the foundations and I lead them the entire way until they go, hey, coach, hey, mentor, I get the system, I get the business, I get the value you're providing, I can go do this on my own. My ultimate goal is to help whoever wants to come and work with me is to earn and win in 1/4 of the time it took me to win. I want to see people make over $250,000 in half the time it took me. I want to see people make 10 grand a month in half the time it took me. That's where fulfillment comes. So step one, Steve, is reach out to me. Step two is we'll see if we're a good fit. If I'm a good fit for you, if you're a good fit for us, to see if we can work together. And step three is, okay, what do you want? And then step four is let's put the system in place to make that a reality. And I'll show you step by step, A through Z, one, two, three, on how to make that happen. I have people say, Edgar, I want to make 10 grand a month. I go, perfect. You have to do boom, boom, boom. Edgar, I want to make an extra, at least an extra 2 grand a month. Great. A, B, C. So that's what I do for individuals right there, Steve.
Mm-hmm. So how can people reach out to you?
Yeah, so the best way right now, the most easiest way right now is you can find me on Instagram at Zavala underscore Edgar 25.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a link in my bio. You click that link, you can learn more about me as well. You can click I have an interactive presentation right there that allows you to learn a little bit more about the industry that I'm in, the opportunity that allowed me to become financially free. And you can learn more about what is it I'm doing behind the scenes and be like, okay, that's what Edgar's doing. That's what he's a part of. I can see why he's winning real big. So Zavala underscore Edgar at 25 on Instagram. Go to my link in my bio and you'll catch me there.
All right, terrific. Well, great to have you on the show, Edgar, and a lot of great information for the listeners on how they can break out of that cycle and really attain wealth, even though they may think they can.
Absolutely, 100%. Appreciate it, Steve.
Right.